The 3x3 cube notations are super easy to understand, and if you don't know, a cube notation is basically a set of letters that let you know how and when to turn the cube, as well as what layers to turn. First, let's go over some super easy cube notations, and then we'll start getting into some harder ones. So the first cube notations I want to go over are R and R prime. So R is going to stand for right, so that's going to mean that we're going to rotate the right layer. So R is going to be moving the right layer up, and R prime is going to reverse that. So it's going to be moving the right layer down instead. So R is going to be, just a normal letter is going to be opposite of the prime letter. So R is going to be up, and R prime is going to be down. And next we have L and L prime. So these are a little bit trickier because the notations are not really different, but they move in a different way than the right layer. So instead of, for the right layer, we have R going up and R prime going down. For the left layer, L is going to go down and L prime is actually going to go up. So the way I remember this is that right is always opposite of left. So for example, R or L is going to go the opposite way as it does on the right layer. Next, we have U and U prime moves. So a U is going to be moving the top layer or up clockwise, and U prime is going to be moving it counterclockwise. So we're going to move this one clockwise, and then we have the other one counterclockwise, just like that. Okay, and then we have D and D prime moves, which stands for down or the bottom layer. So the way I remember this as well is like right is always opposite of left, up is always opposite of down. So instead of D moving clockwise, just like U, it's actually going to move counterclockwise. So D goes counterclockwise, just like this, and D prime actually goes clockwise, just like U. Okay, and now we have a little bit more tricky ones. So these are B and B prime moves. So B is going to move the back layer to the left, and B prime is going to move the back layer to the right. So for B, I'm going to move the back layer like this, and for B prime, I'm going to move the back layer like this. Okay, and finally, let's go over F and F prime moves. So F is going to stand for front, so it's going to mean rotate the front layer. So F is going to rotate the front layer towards the right hand, and F prime is going to move the front layer towards the left hand, just like so. Okay, so now that we've gone over all these single layer moves, let's go over the double layer moves. So when you see a lowercase letter, it doesn't mean the same as just the uppercase letter. It actually means to rotate double layers instead of just single. So let's first take, for example, lowercase r. So lowercase r is going to move the same as a normal r, except it's just going to move 2 layers instead of 1. And the same with r prime. So it's going to move the same as r prime, except it's just going to move 2 layers, just like that. Okay, so now that we've covered double layer for R, let's go over double layer for L. So it's going to be the same as L prime and L, except it's going to move double layers. So let's first do L prime. So that's going to be up 2 layers, and L is going to be down 2 layers, just like that. And then we have U, lowercase u, and lowercase u prime. So they're going to move the same as U and U prime, except they're just double layers instead. So we have U and then U prime. Okay, so now that we've covered the U and U prime layers, let's go over the lowercase d and d prime layers. So lowercase d is going to move the same way as a normal d. It's just going to do double layers, and then d prime is going to move the same way as well as double layers. And now we have b and b prime, which are going to move the same way as b and b prime. So first we have b, and b prime is going to move the opposite way still as double layers. And finally, we have lowercase f and lowercase f prime. So it's going to move the same way, just double layers. So we're going to do lowercase f and lowercase f prime. Okay, so now let's get into M moves or slice moves. So an M and M prime are basically the middle layers, basically for more advanced algorithms like CFOP, but they're not really used in beginner method. So for M and M prime, M is going to go up just like this. So you're going to rotate M this way. So it's going to go like that. And M prime is going to go the opposite way. So it's going to go down instead, just like that. And finally, let's go over cube rotations. So for these, they're a little bit tricky because there are a lot of weird letters in here. So let's first go over x and x prime. So x is going to rotate the cube like this, and then x prime is obviously going to be the opposite, so it's going to be rotating the cube down. So x rotates the entire cube up, all 3 layers, and x prime moves the entire cube down. Then we have y and y prime. So y is going to be moving the entire cube to the left, and y prime is going to move the entire cube to the right. And finally, our last cube notations are z and z prime. So z is going to move the cube like this, and z prime is going to move the cube the opposite way. So it's going to move it like this. So those are all the cube notations for the 3x3, and they're really simple to memorize because there's not too many of them, and they're very similar to each other. Also, I wanted to give a quick shout out to Mental Games, who has a great channel with a lot of example solves, and you should definitely go check that out as well.